What's up, everybody? Somebody tell me, what makes a great racing game? Track and car selection, graphics, physics, car customization, multiple modes, easy to navigate menus, and just a ton more would make it onto a list of things that truly entail what a great racing game is. I am Skywarp72, and today we're going to go over the top 10 things that need to happen in Forza Motorsport 8 to take it from the run-of-the-mill game it has become since FM5 and make it a truly over-the-top enjoyable racing experience that sets the bar again in the racing game genre. Before we get to that though, just a couple of disclaimers. This isn't just a personal list of the crap that I want to see in the game. This is for the overall appeal and quality for the community that my fellow cruisers and I would like to see in FM8. And that also that today's list does not hold the intent on bashing the franchise, but to point out shortcomings and how to fix those said shortcomings to make for a better racing experience for everybody. Lastly, if you want to be part of the best Forza community that online has to offer, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and check the description for links for the Cruisers Twitter, Facebook group, and Discord, and support everything we're doing here on the channel. I thank you.
And here we go.
Stability issues. Game developers of all type now repeatedly push out half-baked products by a certain release date and then try to patch the problems in later updates. Sadly, this has become the industry standard. But one would think that a studio as huge as Microsoft's Turn 10, bearing the flagship game for any Xbox console release, would be immune to this. However, they are not. Recently, FM6 was a free game of the month from Xbox Live, and due to it not having loading issues while in multiplayer, Forza players left FM7 in droves and reverted back to FM6 simply for the ability to choose cars in between races. Other than a run-in with a griefer, there is nothing more frustrating than not being able to pick a car in between races. The flashy multiple screens after each race are nice, I guess, but not when cycling through them costs you the next race when you can't get in the right car. That the game has to be 100% out of the box. That's the hope amongst us Forza fans, with Turn 10 having an extra year to work on it. Longer races. Sans the endurance hoppers, I've noticed a pattern in online races on Forza since FM6, and that is the races are mostly designed to last 5 or 6 minutes in each multiplayer lobby. While I do understand the short attention span that gamers have nowadays, this still represents two problems. One is it makes most of the races sprints, which leads to desperate attempts to get to the front quickly and lesser drivers causing havoc along the way. Longer races could go a long way toward cleaning up the wrecks in lobbies. Two is that an S-Class car can make more laps in a 5 to 6 minute period than, say, a C or D-Class car, so lower class racers don't get the credits payout or the XP that, say, S or R-Class players do. Many times, if you're a victim of a lap 1 incident, you can't catch the lead pack back up and don't even stand a chance of placing where you'd like. Longer races would fix this problem. War of the Classes. Speaking of Forza's letter lobbies, somebody at Microsoft really hates class letter racing. It was near absent at the beginning of both FM7 and FH4, and while they've made a return in Motorsport, last I checked, there wasn't anything below B in Horizon. Don't get me wrong, I really dig the homologated lobbies, but the core Forza Horizon Motorsport audience is used to having the letter lobbies. Not having the traditional letter lobbies for a long time in FM7 alienated a ton of core Forza players that literally had been around since FM1 and didn't return until we got both the letter lobbies and proper leaderboards to run them. There are enough players in the franchise to have both the homologated and letter racing from launch.
License and registration, please.
Other than open track days where you can't even pass cars in corners, you're likely never going to be able to get on any racetrack featured in the game in a wheel-to-wheel race without first obtaining some sort of competition license. Forcing players to go through licensing processes like Gran Turismo does would go a long way towards cleaning up the crash-filled lobbies that, sadly, have become synonymous with Forza Motorsport. Adding to that, since rumors are swirling so heavily right now of Forza being tied to the International Motorsports Association, or IMSA, a partnership between Forza and the Sports Car Club of America, or SCCA, could be beneficial to both parties, adding that grassroots feeling to racing in Forza Motorsport. Trucks and SUVs. At risk here of sounding like a broken record, I understand the trucks and SUVs in Horizon. They serve a purpose and they serve it well. But we are high time past using the plethora of useless trucks and SUVs on a track-based game simply to pump up the number of overall vehicles that Forza offers. In real life, even a prudent track day organizer will never let a Raptor or a Hummer participate in an event, and even Turn 10 has had some kind of realization of this, as most of the trucks and SUVs are not even allowed in the lobbies. To make matters worse, the Forza logic used to allow some trucks and SUVs is frazzled at best, allowing the Xbox Edition green headlighted Raptor in public lobbies, but not the 46 Ford Woody wagon, which does a hell of a lot less damage if piloted by a griefer. A ton of the SUVs in the DLC packs were banned from public hoppers as well, leaving those who bought them wondering why they wasted their money. The final hit players take on the useless vehicle issue is that there are 100 cars for every SUV that should be in the game. Like the Pontiac Fiero, or 06 GTO, or 96 Impala SS, or for the love of God, an 89 Chevrolet Beretta GTU, and that's my one per list. Star Trek. Hold on a minute, this one might actually be happening.
Fascinating.
It's no secret that the majority of current track selection in Motorsport 7 has been recycled since FM5. As a matter of fact, what with VIR and Homestead being DLC tracks in FM6, FM7 only brought one new track to the table, and that's Dubai. In the July edition of Forza Monthly, which I covered here on the channel, Chris Sasaki did mention Turn 10 had found a cheaper, faster way of scanning tracks, and quietly mentioned to be on the lookout for new tracks when FM8 rolls around in the fall of 2020. Not only the addition of IMSA licensed tracks like the long-awaited Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, but fantasy tracks from previous Forza titles like Camino Viejo Extreme and Sunset Peninsula, now dubbed Forza Lore tracks. Either real or Forza Lore tracks would be a welcome break from the current track selection. Both would set FM8 over the top. Tune-up. Tuning and building cars on Forza has essentially been untouched since FM2, hence why some of the same names have topped the leaderboards for so long. While groundbreaking at the time of FM2, the tuning section has grown stale to say the least, with OP cars not needing much from iteration to iteration to stay overly competitive. Long awaited are some new aspects to the tuning, combined with a new gaming engine, and that could really shake things up in the Forza community. I've said before that we don't need anything as overly complex as the tuning in P-Cars 2, but tuning per wheel and not simply per axle is something that's long overdue in these times in a simcade like Forza. Leveling the playing field via a new tuning section could yield some fresh new faces on top of the leaderboards. And speaking of those leaderboards, take me to your leader. Leaderboarding, or hot lapping, was as big a deal to competitive racers as wheel-to-wheel racing. Until FM5. When FM5 hit, it lacked something that the hardcore hot lappers refused to live without, and that was the overall leaderboards. For those of you who weren't around for it, FM3 and 4 not only had leaderboards for each individual track and car class, but had an overall board that ranked you globally based on the times on all the tracks and all the classes. Huge, I know. If you're a dev and you want players to put in 1,000+ hours in your game, overall leaderboards is how you do it. Both Chris Sasaki and Meckberg have said that a lot of devs that are working on the FM8 team played FM2 and 3. And if they want those players and customers back, you bring back the ranking in all its glory. Martial law. If you didn't know already, I'm a Forza Marshal. Surprisingly, the majority of rando players I've ran into don't even know what that is, so if you don't, think of Marshals as a volunteer moderator in the game. Now that that's out of the way, the marshalling system implemented in FM7 will be continuing on to FM8, though to what degree remains unseen. Our jobs are going to be kinda obsolete.
They took our job! They took our job! They took your deal!
If the Forza race regulations are implemented into every lobby. Those race regulations, though, are going to need some improvements before FM8, as I'm tired of getting penalties for driving across rumble strips not even off the track to avoid crashes. Also needing to work is the placement of the glowy blue lines, as if you're a regular here on the channel, you've heard me rant 100 times probably over how the track limitation system takes away the real racing line on tracks like Sebring. Feature presentation. I really hate to be one of those guys.
Literally.
I have to make a comparison here to FM4. Okay, so, in a super unpopular opinion, I thought that FM5 was a solid racing game. However, the reason it bombed and became the absolute weakest iteration in the series is because it lacked the features that wildly diversified FM3 and 4. Gone were most of the fantasy tracks, the auction house, gifting cars, Fujimi Kaido, clubs, club garages, user-created lobbies, I mean, the list goes on. FM5 and even 6 lacked all or most of these features, and it showed through a good portion of the core audience not buying the games. The return of many of these features, coupled with new ones like the FRRs and homologated racing, well, I mean, basically, it'd be like a super Forza.
He must have drank all of it!
It's a super shredder!
In the current generation of consoles, racing games have taken a huge hit, especially arcade racers, though the loss of those arcade racers have led to only a few of the big studios being able to hang on with sim-based games. Gran Turismo, P-Cars, Forza, and Dirt are really the only reoccurring good ones. Racing games are starting to pick up more steam though, and I'll bet you it becomes a much more competitive market once the next-gen consoles really get rolling. Turn 10 can either come out of the box big dick swinging with the aforementioned Super Forza, with all the bugs solved and features that add depth and character to the game, and hence set the bar for any racing game to come after, or do what they've been doing and just be another mundane option in a shallow pool of racing games. I see a major problem when the golden standard for Forza Motorsport games is 7 years old now, being FM4, and frankly, with the power of a much more technically advanced new gaming console behind it, if FM8 doesn't manage to finally surpass FM4 as that golden standard, I really think all the hope is lost for the series. So there it is, the top 10 things that need to happen in Forza Motorsport 8. Do you agree? Or do you disagree? Probably disagree, so tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. I really want to hear what you have to say. Want to further the discussion? Join the greatest Forza community out there and get in on the discussion over at the Cruisers Gaming Facebook group and the Cruisers Discord. Links to both will be in the description down below. And if you're in a position to help the channel grow, please consider becoming a member of the Cruisers Patreon, where you can get Cruisers stickers, and very shortly, hats and shirts are coming soon. I thank you for the support, my friends, and remember, those friends, they're the family you get to choose. See you next week, fellow Cruisers.